Welcome in, everybody. Joe Quills here with you on this Thursday night, another edition of the show. And I need to fix the light here. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. There we go. Another edition of Joe Quills Show here on this. I don't know. I messed around with this. I have a light here which I can also fold backwards so that it lights the room up. So I have it using as a light for me for the show here, and it's getting weird. I gotta play around with it one night. So, but we're here tonight, and we're gonna have some fun here on this Thursday night. Got some interesting stuff to talk about here. And yes, I did say it. You know, you can argue, you can fight me, whatever. Today's the best day of Major League Baseball, especially the best day that they've had in a while. That's not a World Series clinching game. I'll tell you more about that. PGA apologized for the behavior of the New York fans at the Ryder Cup last weekend. I'll give some thoughts there, and also take a dig at New York people. The Saints signed a new lease through 2035, and NBC is reviving an old channel. I'll tell you about that as well. And we'll also have the Philly Phade here as we can get you to the weekend here tonight. So just want to let you guys know, I was planning on doing a show Tuesday night, and I was off all day. And it was basically a lost day for me, because it began with the fact that, it actually began last Friday when I finally figured out how to change my settings on my Xfinity account, which I still think isn't right, but I still get the feeling I'm going to be running up to Xfinity this weekend, or maybe even just saying, just take all this shit that's not internet related, take it, shove up your candy ass if you could smell what the queue is cooking. But, so I was on the phone with somebody for over 2 hours. And mind you, I only understood about half she was saying because I don't think she was from this country. And, yeah, I could go off about whatever, but, I find it funny that, we're trying to control the border, but we have a president who isn't afraid to say, well, guess what? Instead of having good union jobs, we'll just ship all the shit to the third world countries where they can make like $2 an hour instead of what we make. But that's a topic for another day. But truthfully, so I forget what I did between 5 and 8. I think I ran to the store. Yeah, I ran to the store because I finally cashed Mike's lottery ticket he gave me. So I finally cashed that. And then, made dinner. And then all of a sudden I got very jittery. And I think, well, whatever it was, I knew my anxiety was going crazy. Now, I don't know if it was the fact I missed a pill in the morning, because what I usually do, I usually take my anxiety pill in the morning. Now, some people that take the pill that I take will say, well, you should take it in the evening because it'll zonk you right out for the night. But for the most part, I can fall asleep pretty good. So it's actually still in my system, blah, 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 whatever. So I just didn't feel right all of a sudden. So, um, so about 8:15, 8:30, I said, I can't do the show tonight. I'll see you on Thursday. And mind you, this was a day that was for a day off, was slowly progressing into the toilet. And it was just that the only thing I had planned on doing was getting, um, you know, just watching baseball, setting up for the Tuesday night show, whatever. Instead, I'm on the phone with Comcast for 2 hours, and let's call it Xfinity what it is. It's Comcast because they decided to change the name just to make you think it's a new company when it really wasn't. So, but when I got back from the store, at least I think I went to the store because, maybe this is a sign that, maybe it's just I'm old and maybe it's just the fact that um, maybe the anxiety made me forget a couple of hours of the day on Tuesday. But then again, it's not really that important. It was just like, oh, well, I got to go to the store, got to do this, got to do that. So got to the store, came back, even joked around to the woman because, if I have $100 winner, which I did, you know, because if you have a lottery ticket that's a winner, one of the best places is a supermarket. If it's like one of those 50 to 100 to $200, once you get to a certain point, they even suggested to me, just go to the casino. So since I was talking to an older woman the last time I had a big winner, well, big, 200, she goes, oh, just take it to the casino. I'm like, okay, well, what casino did you go to and where do you go? Because I go to parks. I know parks like the back of my hand. Is it the racebook area where, you know, the little racebook hole, as I like to call it, because it's like you fit like 8 people in that room? Or is it towards the back where you have this little stand where you can maybe get a park sweatshirt or get a soda or something like that, that sort of thing. So didn't give me an answer the last time, but when I got back, I had dinner and I just didn't feel right. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm not going to. If there's something that's really wrong with me, then that's one less step I have to take to go to a doctor, call my doctor, go to a hospital, whatever. So I ended up taking my anxiety pill, just one, because that's all I take in one day is one pill. So, and if I remember my doctor telling me, or even the doctor who saw me at the hospital 6, 7 years ago when I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, you can take a second one if you're really feeling anxious, anxiety, whatever. Okay. But I'm not the type of person that's going to be, let me chug all the pills. I'm not like that. I'm kind of like, I'm the type of person where I'm sitting there with the clock. All right, I took it at 2:03, 8:01, 8:02, 8:03. All right, something like that. But so I don't know if it was what I had for dinner. I don't know if it was some of the bullshit I've been dealing with lately. I don't know if it's just something that came out of the blue. But whatever it was, it got me not feeling okay. Now, and of course, some people are saying, well, why are you telling this? Well, the one thing is, And I'm never going to say I'm an advocate for something other than horse racing. But like personal health and mental health and all that. And even when they call me the horse racing expert on Bleacher Brothers, you know, I hate titles like that because I feel like there's always people that are better at me and probably you're better served to go to. But I'm not afraid to admit, yeah, I can talk a good game too. But the one thing I will tell you guys, and I mean, and before you ask any questions, no, I wasn't suicidal. I've never been suicidal in my life. Personally, personally, the way I feel about life, I'd rather be an annoying pain in the ass to everybody instead of just giving up. But um, but at least I knew what I had to do, and thankfully everything was okay in a couple hours. So yeah, so what I did was I plopped my ass on the couch after I said no show. Fell asleep watching baseball for about a half an hour to an hour, and everything was fine. So thankfully everything's okay. Um, you know, so and the one thing I will say is, if if something's not right, take that time out. The thing is with me, I'd rather be closer to 100% than at 50% or 0% because this is all fun to me, and I explained this to somebody the other day. Um, this is my outlet after a long day at work. I'd rather just sit here, relax, talk sports, do whatever. Use this as my outlet to decompress from a day at work. Because the thing is, before we started working from home, my decompression mechanism was listen to podcasts and stuff on the train ride home. Well, 2020 and China and all that, and you know, they, it changed everything. And and I'm not going to lie to you. And I said this to my doctor um, at the beginning of this. I said I'm losing 2.5 miles a day on average because me walking up the street and then me going from the bus to the up the stairs to the L station and all that, and then from the station to my office and walking around the office during the day and all that, all that adds up. And I would have days where I'd have like 6, 7 miles, like, how the hell did I walk 6 or 7 miles? But but the one thing I'll tell you guys is if something's not right, it's okay to say time out and make sure everything's okay in the long run. So thankfully, I'm thinking what happened was I didn't take my pill in the morning. I think my I took my cholesterol pill instead, I think. The only reason I say that is I usually have my pills lined up a certain way. It's like my one pill that I take morning and night, my morning pills, and then my cholesterol pills I take at night. So so like a week or two ago, I'm sitting here, or I was actually getting my pills, or I was going to the area where my pills are. I knocked that bottle of my anxiety pills, and half of them poured right into the trash can. fuck me. So thankfully, I got fresh. Yeah, I saved some of the pills. The pills that were already in the trash can. Fuck it. But there was still enough in the bottle that I was able to get through a couple of days and a couple of weeks, and now I have my fresh thing of pills right now. So thankfully, it was just a minor thing, but I'd rather err on the side of caution. Nothing bad happened, and everything's fine. Um, and trust me, I love doing this shit. So, and the one thing I will tell you guys is as well, if you head over to my Twitch page, twitch.tv/Joe Quills, you can join me. You can subscribe. Not only can you follow, you can subscribe. And the one thing I would recommend is make sure that you have the alerts on. Because the one thing is, I looked the other day, or last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, half the people that subscribe do not get my alerts, which is bullshit. How are you going to grow when all these people say, oh, thanks, Mike. It's just minor shit that I was dealing with. But the one thing I will say is subscribe. I mean, I want you to follow me. I want you to have those alerts on, but, it would be nice to subscribe as well. And, I can make a little bit of money here and there off of it. So will it be life-changing money? No. But so anyways, let's get to it here on this Tuesday. I'm looking, and I think the Yankees took the lead here 1-0. Yeah, they did. 1-0, bottom of the fourth. Niners are up 14-7. And Ryan Fitzpatrick is kissing Al Michaels' ass on a promo here. They're at the 2-minute warning. So they're final 2 minutes of the first half. So I got both games going on right now. By the way, you're not a pain, only trending. Anyways, so the playoffs are going on right now, and I just have one question I have to ask, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, and if you're a fan of one particular team that I'm going to make into the old Sesame Street thing, one of these things is not like the other. Is it me, or does it seem that there were 11 teams going into Tuesday with a shot to win the World Series, and then there was the Cincinnati Reds? Am I the only one that thought that? And I'm sure some people were thinking, oh, Detroit collapsed. They had a 15.5 game lead and blah, blah, blah. And some people will argue, well, Boston's probably a year away, even though they stole game one from the Yankees. But it just seemed like it's 11 teams with a chance to win, and there was the Cincinnati Reds. Kind of like how the NCAA tournament in a region of 16, there's great minds think alike. Okay, good. Because we knew the Dodgers were going to win that series. Now, somebody did share, and I think it was on X today. No, it wasn't. Must have been on Facebook then. Let me see something here. No. It must be on my Instagram, but whatever it was, I said that it said that don't feel bad, Mets fans. You would have lost to the Dodgers 2 straight as well, or something to that effect. But you did have a great setup this year. It was just that the Reds were that team that nobody would give a chance to. Now, I was kind of hoping for the upset because obviously it's a much easier matchup, no doubt about it. But you're definitely getting a World Series type matchup in a divisional round. Think of it as the Dodgers and the Giants the one year that Gabe Kapler knew how to manage. Giants won 107, Dodgers won 106. Now, granted, you don't have the 107, 106 wins, but you still have two top-notch teams. And I'm sure Milwaukee's saying, hey, guys, we're the number 1 seed here. But Milwaukee has their own problems to worry about because the Cubs advanced today. They won 3-1. And, ever since – it's not coming in clear, damn it. Ever since those Padres fans started doing that white wrap thing, which makes me embarrassed to be a white guy, they haven't done too well in the postseason. Well, they did knock out the Dot. Well, that was after, but yeah, it's the Padres disappoint yet again, and we have a feud, an NL Central feud between Milwaukee and Chicago, and somebody did joke around and say, "Oh well, the Cubs can now bust up the Milwaukee because they're so close to each other. I think they're like 60 miles apart. So, so we do have that. So the Dodgers will take on the Phillies. Game 1 will be 6:08 right now. But if the Yankees win, but if the Red Sox win, it'll be 6:38, I think. But forgive me, I'm just drawing a blank here. So, and oh, by the way, Hunter Pence is doing work for ESPN right now, which is interesting. Phillies are favored in Game 1 over the Dodgers. I mean, I wish that game went 3 games, only because of the fact that if it did go 3 games, that meant the Dodgers are getting in early Friday morning, and it's like, oh, we got to work out today, but we do have 2 great matchups in the NL. We got the Cubs and the Brewers, which is going to be a war because they're geographically close, division rivals, all that. And you got the Phillies and the Dodgers who renew their rivalry and their playoff rivalry. And the last two times the Phillies met the Braves, they met the Dodgers. Oh, by the way, Phillies went to the World Series. That was in 08 and 09. And we all know what happened in 08. And what should have happened in 09 if it wasn't for that fucking redneck Charlie Manuel. But yeah, so we got that. And in the American League, I should have shown you that bracket ahead of time. Detroit defeated Cleveland 2-1 with a 6-3 win today. And Yankees are up 4-0 in the fourth here. The Yankees are putting a rally together. And the Red Sox and Yankees will play the Blue Jays. Let me just check one thing here. Because now they did avert a crisis. Well, at least I think we have. Because if you remember the other night, I mentioned how Seattle has their two stadiums literally right next to each other. MLB decided to put this Sunday game at 8:03 p.m. So the football game will start at 4, like it's 4 o'clock Eastern time, like it's scheduled. The baseball game will start at 8, and that'll probably be on Fox. So that, you don't have two games going at the same time. But you know me, I love
two chicks at the same time, man.
So we have Tigers going out to Seattle, and Toronto will play the winner of the game that's going on right now that's leaning towards the Yankees right now. So we have that going here. And it is looking like the seeds will hold in 3 of the 4 series. But I will say this. Today was a great day to be a baseball fan. For not being for not being opening day and not being the World Series clinching game. Because you had, out of the 4 potential matchups, 3 of them went to a game 3. Now, this format has only been in play technically since 2020. Because if you remember, in 2020, we had the shortened 60-game season without any fans, and they went to 8 teams in each league for the sake of, since you only had 8 teams, since you only had 60 games. So you didn't have that separation that you would normally have in 162 between the contenders and pretenders. So even that 2020 season, I looked it up while I was working, there were only 2 games that went to a game 3. But the last 3 years, we didn't have much in the way of game 3. But think of it as game 7 of an NBA or NHL series, and they all played on the same day. That's what we had today. And Cleveland tried to do the impossible, but they couldn't get anything going in the ninth. They got it to within 6-3, but Cleveland could not come back from a 6-1 deficit. Detroit had a big 5-run inning in the seventh, I believe it was. I'm sorry, 1 in the sixth, 4 in the seventh. So that put the game out of reach. The French tickler Dylan Dingler had a big home run in the game to give them a 2-1 lead. So, but Detroit, maybe that funk is out of them finally. They get to go to Seattle. Unfortunately, they got to play the Seattle Mariners, who are a hot team right now. Seattle won 90 games on the season. We'll see what happens with this. And, other than the Philly series where we're going to be pins and needles for the next week, the other 3 series, you just hope they're great series. And even if the Phillies win, maybe I can argue making these division series a best of 7 because of the fact that you're going to have a great series between, well, as of right now, the Yankees and the Blue Jays, who finished tied for the division. Toronto won that in a tiebreaker. And then you have the Phillies and the Dodgers, where if we didn't have the American League and National League setup that we have, like I proposed that one of my major rule changes once we realign, when baseball finally expands to 32 teams, if we just go 32 teams, no leagues, that matchup is a World Series worthy matchup. Now, of course, Milwaukee would be like, what about us? Toronto, what about us? Yankees, what about us? But the great thing is, nobody got to 100 wins this year for the second year in a row. Milwaukee got to 97, so they had the most wins. But this is one of those years where, even though everybody is saying, "Oh, the Phillies are going to win," the Phillies are going to win, and I'm wearing the Phillies alternate design hat, the City Connect hat, well, City Connect variation of it. You can, if we were sitting here Monday making picks for who would win the World Series, objectively, even though objectively I'd still pick the Phillies. And if I had 100 people on here over the course of a show, we probably would have had a bunch of people saying Toronto, a bunch of people saying Seattle, a bunch of people saying the Yankees, a bunch saying the Dodgers, a bunch saying the Phillies. But I think the Dodgers did get back in the swing of things. Now, the one thing I said to some friends, even friends out in the West Coast, I said, I'm just afraid the Dodgers are just going to flip the switch and boom, they're ready to go. So it'll be interesting to see how things shake out on Saturday, because Ohtani's going to pitch game 1. Now, I know Michael know this, but I think it was either 77 or 78. Dodgers had a pitcher, Bert Hooton. And, I barely knew what baseball was back then, but, I kind of knew a thing or two for a 4 or 5-year-old mind. And the the one thing I would say is it was in 1977. Okay. The Phillies fan base, the fans in the crowd at Veterans Stadium, they got him so rattled that Bert Hooton had to be pulled from the game. Now, can the Phillies do that to Shohei Ohtani? I hope so. But the one thing is, Shohei can still hit even if he's pulled from the game. Because remember, we have that rule now where, oh, by the way, if you're Shohei or another pitcher that can hit, which there aren't many of because of the fact that the way I feel, we're not if you can throw and you can pitch, we're not going to have you. We're not going to have you pitch. We're not going to have you hit anymore. Whereas I'm the type of person, baseball-wise, where I want to teach you to hit. I want to teach you to throw. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. Also because of the fact that you never know when you're going to be needed to do something other than your original position. So, but remember, you're talking about facing the defending champions here. And I think a great guy by the name of Ric Flair once said, to be the champs, woo, you got to beat the champs. All right, it's to beat the man, you got to beat the man. But you get the idea. So Phillies have to be on their game. And hopefully that that public workout last night did enough for that. And the one thing is, you had 31,000 fans at Citizens Bank Park. They capped it at 31. They could have sold 45 if they really wanted to. They had 31,000 for the game. And the Cleveland Guardians, they had 29,891 today. And that was a 3 o'clock start. You had a 2 o'clock start yesterday. And they got 26,669. Nice 69. And then Monday, they got 26,186. Now, one thing is, even though they didn't sell out any of those 3 games, the one thing you need to remember is they shrunk that stadium down, so to speak, like the upper deck areas down there are party deck areas, so they don't have seats there anymore. It's like walk up to get a beer and shit like that. So you do have a little bit of that going on. So there's less seats, but also there were a ton of empty seats in the crowd over the 3 days. And of course, everybody's saying, well, why do we have baseball? Why do we have playoff baseball during the day and during the week? Let me break something to you. Okay? First of all, once you get to the playoffs, you try to stagger these games out so they're overlapping as very little as possible. Like, for example, in 2020, you couldn't do it, and you had a situation where you had 8 games going at one time, for the most part. Like, every hour it'd go off. 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there's always going to be one team that's going to be the baseball equivalent of the Houston Texans when it comes to football, or when it comes to baseball. And what I mean by that is, when you look at the Houston Texans, if they make the playoffs, they are always the first game on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Matter of fact, last year, not only were they 4:30 for the wild card, but for the divisional round as well. But we are in a point now. I mean, but then again, the tickets are so expensive on top of that as well. But nobody complains that, and here's my argument that, because I saw this on YouTube. I just didn't watch the video yet. By the way, Brody Brazil on YouTube, great follow. Great topics, great stories, all that shit. So I didn't get to see it yet, but why do we still play day baseball games in the playoffs? Well, maybe the problem is the fan base and not Major League Baseball. Oh, Cleveland's a proud city, blah, blah, blah. And I heard my phone buzzing, but I don't know where it went. Hold on a second. Oh, it's right underneath here. Jesus Christ, give me one of those. But I'll tell you this. I just think when you look at everything, if the Yankees were the 1 o'clock game, they'd probably sell out. All 50,000 seats or however many is there at Yankee Stadium. If it was at Dodger Stadium, they would probably sell out. 50 to 60,000 there. Chicago, yeah. The Cubs would sell out because, everybody wants to go to a game at Wrigley. And even more so because it's the playoffs, even though they won a World Series a few years ago. But there's a reason why you have Tampa Bay a couple years ago with that time slot. You had Cleveland this year. But I will also argue as well, sometimes you get the not ready for prime time players. Like, for example, 2022, game one, the first game out of the box in the playoffs in the wild card round that year was Phillies and Cardinals in St. Louis. Now, back in 2022, the fact that St. Louis was playing, that alone gets you a sellout. Now St. Louis can't get 15,000 people in their stadium because Ali Marmol has brought that team down into the toilet and still has a job. But you look at everything here. There's nothing wrong with afternoon baseball when October comes around. I just think that we are so spoiled. And then, nobody complains about NCAA basketball tournament game starting at 12:15 on a Thursday. Well, we can't watch it. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you can watch online. But I have to watch that video, but I will argue that maybe there's a reason why you were the 2 o'clock game, or today 3 o'clock, because they adjusted the times a little bit. There was a reason why you were the early game. all 3 days because you're a small market team against a team in your division who had an epic collapse but still made the playoffs on a tiebreaker. So say what you will. I don't necessarily think it's because, we can't have games night. Would you rather have daytime baseball, or actually even, I don't see anybody complaining that a Wednesday or Thursday afternoon game is in the afternoon when a playoff spot's on the line. The argument doesn't make sense to me. Now, mind you, I work during the week. So if the Phillies had a wild card series at home, now granted, the Phillies would have been, well, with the Yankees, it would have been forced into a 3 or 4 o'clock start. 4 o'clock, everybody would show up. You look at the Phillies-Dodgers prices right now, those prices are through the roof on the secondary market. But I just don't understand people's complaints. I just think that, a cloud must complain. That's how I feel. But then again, I'm a little jealous because I can actually sit at home while working and watch the games. So, but whatever. So, so we did have that. And then I did see this today. And the Ryder Cup was this past weekend. That's the best 12 golfers from Europe versus the best 12 golfers in the United States. And, they have better ball and 4-ball, and Confucius say, man with 4-ball can't walk, all that stuff. So apparently, well, I shouldn't say apparently, because it was well known even from day one, even when you're watching. One of the fans there in Bethpage Black on Long Island, New York, told Rory McIlroy, "Don't button the top button because you're already choking," or something like that. Well, the New York fan base, and it was mostly New York fans there probably, and I guarantee you, even if it was Philly fan, even if this was in a impossible course to play on in the Philadelphia area, I guarantee you they would be saying Philly fans, even though they'd be golf fans from all around the country. But the PGA Tour of America president apologized to over 30,000 plus golf professionals that he's elected to serve. And there was apologies flying around all over the place after last weekend. So the PGA Tour president, Don Rea Jr., who initially compared vitriolic comments at the Ryder Cup to what he heard at a youth soccer game. Those must be some fun youth soccer games. So he apologized Thursday in an email to 30,000 plus golf professionals and stuff. Europe won the event 15-13. Europe had a huge lead after 2 days, the largest lead, had a record lead, but they held on. The event was marred by a gallery that made it personal and profane. No, not New York. So the letter, which was obtained by the Associated Press to the PGA of America members, read, "Let me begin with what we must own. While the competition was spirited, especially with the U.S. team's rally on Sunday afternoon, some fan behavior clearly crossed the line. And I'll get to that because, it was very vile. He said it was disrespectful and inappropriate and not representative of who we are as the PGA of America or as PGA of America golf professionals. We condemn that behavior unequivocally. Hey, it's New York. What can I say? The armpit of America. What makes our sport great is that we own our bogeys. We certainly own this one. Our CEO, Derek Sprague, has apologized on our behalf to Erica and Rory McIlroy and to everyone with Ryder Cup Europe. I would also like to personally apologize to them and all of you for not representing our association in the best light with some of my comments in the media during the event. While it wasn't my intention, some of my comments were seen in a negative light, which reflects poorly on not only myself, but also on the PGA of America. And for that, I truly apologize. So, I mean, unless you were under a rock, it made sports news segments, YouTube, Sports Center, you name it. But the PGA of America has been reeling from its lack of a response to the unruly behavior which began at Bethpage Black as early as Friday morning when a small section of fans chanted, "Fuck you, Rory," upon seeing Rory McIlroy's image on a video screen from the practice range. Now, why are they going after him? Well, he's the star player of that European squad. I mean, you can argue Jon Rahm, but Rory is the PGA guy, even though Jon Rahm is with LIV. So it only got worse with vulgar language directed at European players, video of a beer being slapped out of someone's hand towards McIlroy's wife, and there was a comedian hired to lead cheers on the first tee getting involved in the expletive-laden chant toward McIlroy. But, imagine if this was Philadelphia. I mean, we're still dealing with the Santa Claus bullshit from the 60s. And, oh, by the way, Santa Claus fucking deserved it. I wasn't alive, but he fucking deserved it, okay? So Reyes said in a BBC interview, you've got 50,000 people here that are really excited. And heck, you could go to a youth soccer game and get some people who say the wrong things. Not to that extreme. I mean, you get riled up parents that are spending money that they should be paying on their credit card bills. Yeah, you're going to piss them off. But so he had said the behavior was distracting American players because they had to spend energy to help control the crowd. Yeah. But even so, whether you're trying to control the crowd or not, you're still getting your ass kicked. Now, the abuse was so severe that McIlroy began pushing back, telling one spectator to shut the fuck up during a foursomes match Saturday morning. McIlroy and Shane Lowry each gave it back to the gallery during their 4-balls victory in the afternoon. Because I saw that because they were actually going, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Ray also said during his BBC interview with the abuse hurled toward McIlroy, I haven't heard some of that. I'm sure it happened. It's happened when we're over in Rome on the other side, and Rory understands. Things like that are going to happen. Well, this is the 1 week out of the year out of every 2 years that Rory's going to get a bunch of shit. Well, 1 out of every 4 because in 2 years he'll be back in Europe. But you're looking at an event where you're doing every you can to help your team win. And that's why they decided to have it at Bethpage Black, because they know how New York would be. But so Matt Fitzpatrick, who was on the European squad, said it's pretty offensive to European fans, the fact that he said that, really. Shane Lowry said the level of abuse directed at McIlroy's wife was astonishing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, keep her out of it. I mean, aside from, hold on a second. So the cable box is gonna go to sleep on me for whatever reason. I have to figure that out. But you know, if you're going to give somebody shit, give it to the player, not his wife or girlfriend or whatever. I mean, I'm probably just as guilty, and I'll probably be joining in on chants like that. But Derek Sprague, the CEO of the PGA of America, said spectators crossed the line, and that he planned to apologize personally to McIlroy and his wife, who formerly worked at the PGA. Rory might have been a target because of how good he is. Yeah. But the entire European team should not have been subjected to that. I felt badly and plan on apologizing to him. Ray also took heat for awkward trophy presentation on Sunday, in which he mentioned Europe had retained the cup instead of winning it. How about repeating as champion, maybe? I don't know. But so the PGA of America announced in 2013 that they were bringing the Ryder Cup to Bethpage Black. The proud public golf course on Long Island had a reputation for its raw comments directed at players. But the one thing I will tell you is, if this had been in a Philadelphia area course, if this had been at a Philadelphia course, Philadelphia would never hear the end of it. But because it's New York, it's just gritty New York fans, blah, blah, blah. No, hold them to the same accord that you hold Philly people whenever we do something a little bit vile and shit like that. Just the fact that I see that, it's like, come on, man. Don't give me that bullshit. That's even worse than us throwing snowballs at Santa Claus. It's worse than San Francisco 49er fans getting into fights with women, or whatever they did a couple of years ago. I mean, they're fighting in the first preseason game because, we got nothing else to do. This game's boring. Oh, let's fight. Come on. But, it's just the stupid shit that happens from time to time. And, but even more so, you don't expect any, you should expect that type of behavior, but, the fans cross the line from early on Friday, and, they're going to go after Rory McIlroy because he is the guy. He is the guy on the European team. Now, mind you, If I would have gone after anybody, I would have gone after Bryson DeChambeau because even though he's American, I just think he's a putz. I just think that he went to live because he wanted to avoid a couple of piss tests because I think he was on the juice, but that's just me. It's like, oh, well, the juice doesn't help you and all that, but no. But either way, I just think you're going to do whatever you can to help your side win. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot of that baseball-wise in Milwaukee because they're in a dome. You're going to see it in Philly because we have really become notorious for being the 4 hours of hell at Citizens Bank Park. You got the Dodgers, they're defending champions and their fans are loud between the third and seventh innings. And you got the Cubs who, they're Cubs fans. They're going to be in it from the very beginning. I mean, Toronto's in a dome. The Yankees are over entitled. You got Detroit who, in the playoffs, their second year in a row, they're wanting to get back to their glory days. And you have Seattle who's never been there, who want to be there for the first time. But, yeah, so it doesn't matter. You're always going to have at least some fans that are going to give you shit, going to give players shit. But when it comes to this, hold New York fans as accountable as you hold us Philly fans over much less. That's all I have to say. So anyway, so before I continue on, just to remind you, first of all, check the FanDuel promo there. It's a $5 fill your account. You start up your account, bet 5, get 300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. And it'd be a great thing to do. Like if you can hit that first bet tomorrow, even, maybe it's a preseason NBA game because the Sixers started play today in Abu Dhabi, and even though they lost, I guarantee you that they found out that the people of Dubai are not fond of the Flintstones, but the people of Abu Dhabi do. But seriously, maybe you want to play. I don't know. Is there a college football game tomorrow? If there's a college football game tomorrow, maybe you want to play that, or you want to play potentially a first half line, or maybe in a first half line on Saturday. You can use it, gain some money, build that pot, because you can go from sportsbook to casino to racebook, and that's where I come into play. We're also eligible Saturday morning, 10 a.m. We're going to look at both Keeneland and Aqueduct. So we're going to have a long-ass show, probably. And Nitrogen is going to be running against Torpedo Anna. I think that's actually on Sunday. Or is it? Let me just double-check this as well. No, Sunday. Okay, so Saturday we have the Coolmore Turf Mile there. We have a couple other stakes races that are Breeders' Cup winning your in races. We also have a couple of winning your in races at Aqueduct as well on Saturday. So, so check out all those. Check out me Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. How many races we do on Saturday, I'll find out. I'll figure out tomorrow, and we'll have some fun with that on Saturday morning. And I should be flying solo this week after AJ picked like 3 or 4 winners, I believe. So that is Saturday. Now, as we try to get back there we go. So check out that FanDuel promotion, and there we go. Check out the FanDuel promotion there, and scan that, and you can fill that on your phone. Or if you want me to send you the link, I can send you the link as well. So that is the case there. So, and I was trying to fit this in somewhere in here and all that, and the best way I can seg into this is there is a racetrack there in New Orleans, the fairgrounds, which has some road to the Kentucky Derby races. Their meet will start next month in November. But not far from there is the Superdome, or the Caesar Superdome, also the site of one of the worst boot-to-ass beatings in a long time, when the Eagles beat the shit out of Kansas City Chiefs. But the Saints announced today they have a new lease and will be there till 2035. So the Saints announced a new 10-year lease with the state of Louisiana to keep the team in New Orleans through at least 2035. Now, maybe because New Orleans isn't that great of a team, maybe because they're a small market or whatever, didn't really hear anything about New Orleans and their lease being up. But so the announcement ends a lengthy negotiation for a new deal with the state, as the previous lease was not finalized beyond 2030. So I guess this is basically a 5-year extension of what they had done. So Saints owner Gail Benson said that discussions about this agreement had spanned 2 administrations, a global pandemic, and Hurricane Ida. So I probably said, all right, well, we're going to do a couple of years here, a couple of years, we're going to add a year, and then, okay, well, we're done now. So we're good till 2035. So that's probably what happened. Benson continues, now today I'm totally happy that we will be sending a signed copy of this agreement to the NFL for their approval. And that means New Orleans probably going to have another Super Bowl, because they don't want to announce New Orleans having a Super Bowl and then, oh, by the way, the New Orleans Saints are moving to Toronto or wherever, or Vancouver, a Canadian city with a dome stadium. You don't want that. But so the Superdome has hosted the Saints since the building opened on August 3rd, 1975. So that building is 50 years old. It recently went through a $450 million renovation and hosted the Boot to Ass show on February 9th. We all know that as Super Bowl 59. The Saints missed the initial deadline to bid the 2031 Super Bowl. But Benson said she is confident the organization will be able to discuss the possibility of hosting the game with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell once the league approves the new lease. I don't know how far out that they are with these, because I know Super Bowl 60 is this year in Santa Clara. All right, this year's game is in Santa Clara. And I say this year as in this season. Super Bowl 61, which is on Valentine's Day, will be at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, where they're playing tonight. Super Bowl 62 will be in Atlanta. So we have 3 games. So we are set through February 2028. And I apologize for yawning there. But so they're looking a couple of years ahead. And they do the whole process has changed over the years, so it isn't the way it used to be. It's like, well, we want the Super Bowl, but um, so now with these games, um, all ready to go, I mean, with the stadium lease and everything, they'll probably get a game in 30 or 31 or 32 or something because they'll have till 35. So so Benson said, once the NFL approves this lease extension, we'll be allowed to petition the NFL to bid on future Super Bowls. So, and the thing is, I just think that you're going to have, I mean, you have to have a game in New Orleans every once in a while. But I think now the rotation has changed over the years where you might have to add Las Vegas to that list now. You got Miami, you got Tampa, you have New Orleans, you have Santa Clara, you have LA. So you got 6, I mean, just there alone are 6 viable sites that if they want a Super Bowl, they'll get it. It's like, But then again, you're also talking about new stadiums in suburban Chicago, which is supposed to be Dome Stadium. Cleveland wants a Dome Stadium. Philly's eventually thinking about a dome, whether it's onto the link or a new stadium. I personally think what they're going to do is they're going to build on the land where the Xfinity Mobile Arena is. You're going to get some. I mean, DC's going to get a new stadium. Nashville's probably going to get a Super Bowl. I think the trend right now with building stadiums, and Buffalo has veered in the opposite direction because they don't want a totally domed in stadium. They want welcome in. Hope you're doing well out there. I'm doing good. Hopefully you're doing good out there. But the NFL will award teams with a Super Bowl if they build a new stadium. Now, granted, Buffalo's not going to get one because they don't have the hotels or the infrastructure to host a Super Bowl. They barely have enough to host a team. But also you have teams that you're Chicago's going to have one. Cleveland will get one. Nashville will be next up because they're in the middle of their stadium. Buffalo will not. But some teams will get that because not only are you building for the Super Bowl, you're also building so you can get Final Fours, indoor concerts, like mega concerts. Like, for example, like when I was mentioning to you guys, I wanted to see Metallica do the Super Bowl show this year because of the fact that they're from San Francisco more than anything else. Something that the NFL has missed on for many years, like get an act that's from that local area. Like when the Meadowlands had the Super Bowl, oh, Bon Jovi or Bruce Springsteen. Well, you eliminate Bruce Springsteen because he had one. Bon Jovi? Nah. But you get the idea. So, but you're going to see you're going to see a combination of cities and stadiums in that Super Bowl rotation. New Orleans is going to be one of them. And I think they'll try to push New Orleans before 2035 because you want to make sure you can get that game there in case something happens, whether it's a new stadium or even, God forbid, they move. I don't think they will, but you get the idea. So that is that is the news from the NFL in New Orleans. Right now, it's 2014 Niners over the Rams. I have the volume down, so I can't tell. I can't tell if they're actually challenging this play or not. But there was a fumble on the kickoff return. No, it looks like they can't. All right, so they said the whistle blew, and I guess that's what it is. So, and also we have the Yankees up 4-0 on the Red Sox in the bottom of the seventh. So that's the major updates here as well. Now, I will ask this question. I'll ask this question because I know Michael probably remember this, but do you remember the NBC Sports Network? And the reason why I say that is because NBC Sports not only announced a new deal between NBC Universal and YouTube TV, where, to continue for YouTube to continue to carry NBC as a provider. Not only that, NBC Sports Network is coming back very soon. NBC announced Thursday that is bringing back the channel as part of its announcement of a new deal between NBC Universal and YouTube TV, which, when they announced that they were shutting operations at the end of 2021, I was sitting here thinking,
they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Because you did have a viable network that you could have all these different networks. But over the last couple of years, things have changed. But about that agreement, NBC and Google's carriage agreement had expired at the end of September, but the two parties have reached a short-term agreement in the interim to continue broadcasting the NBC networks. In the announcement, NBC said that NBCSN will complement the prominent sports properties presented year-round on the NBC broadcast network. So I'm guessing what they're going to do is a lot of the stuff, and Mike does remember it, what I'm guessing is they're going to have some of those events that are being forced on the Peacock, or as I like to call it, the cock, because HBO Max became Max for a while. I think we're going to see some of those events going back, and there is a reason why for this. There is a reason why for this as well. Now, NBC Sports Network was first launched in 2012, and I thought it was great because, Dan Patrick was on there from 9 to 12 every day. And, even as I'm getting ready for work, because I'd be working like mid-afternoons and evenings, I'll get dressed watching Dan Patrick for a little bit. So NBC Sports Network actually began as Versus Cable Network, which was rebranded. Actually, it was actually Outdoor Life, I think. Because if you remember, Outdoor Life originally carried NHL hockey. And part of the reason why that they had became a sports channel was because of Ed Snyder. But instead, but over time, it got rebranded into NBC Sports Network. It was used for programming for NASCAR and the English Premier League. And here's the thing. Back up until 2021, I would actually watch the English Premier League on Saturdays. Now, granted, I'm a casual viewer. I'm one of those fans that doesn't have a team, nor will try to get a team. I just want to watch for the sake of the sport itself. But it's kind of like college football. Even though Temple is the local team here in Philadelphia, I watch their games if I can, but I'm not completely invested in it. I mean, I could also be invested in the University of Delaware, who went FBS this year for the first time this year. I could do either of those, but I prefer just to be rooting against Penn State. But so not only did they have NASCAR, they had the English Premier League, they had other college sporting events until it was shut down at the end of 2021, which, it was like, you're expanding on this. You're going to Peacock now. Now, maybe Peacock is kind of because of the fact that, they did have Major League Baseball in there, but I think they're going to have more baseball in there with this new contract, whatever they did. But at the end of 2021, they were moving more sports to the USA Network and to the Peacock streaming service. Now, NBC Sports Network is coming back, and I think there is a variation of it on your smart TV. And I think it's on mine as well, but you just got to go through the Samsung channels and shit like that. So it's probably not NBCSN as we know it. And that's fine. But it's still something that was there for those that have smart TVs, whether it's Samsung or whatever smart TV you have. Maybe they have a variation of it. But there was a little bit of change in NBC over the last few months. NBC will return as USA Network will no longer be under the NBC Universal umbrella. Comcast spun off its cable channels from NBC Universal into a new company called Versant. That company will own networks like USA, Golf Channel, E!, CNBC, and MSNBC, and the channels will no longer use the NBC logo when Versant officially starts operating independently from Comcast on October 6th, which is on Monday. Yeah, on Monday. So that will start on Monday. So they're going to operate independently from Comcast, with the separation officially complete by the end of the year. Earlier this week, Versant announced that it had obtained the rights to WNBA games on USA as part of an 11-year deal. Versant will air at least 50 games a year, and the deal includes the rights to some playoff games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with NBC Sports Network. Does this mean that they're going to go the route of what they did in the past? Like, for example, the Dan Patrick Show is on the Peacock every Monday through Friday when they're in the Milford Man Cave. And yes, MILF bird. God. But they do have, also they have on Peacock a replay of the Dan Levitard show, which is on the DraftKings network as well. You have all different things on there, and I'm sure that they'll be able to switch some things over, maybe, anything that's on Peacock. Okay, well, in the short term, we're going to not only put it on Peacock, we're also going to put this on NBC Sports Network. And personally, they should have never gotten rid of NBC Sports Network. And Mike will probably agree with me, but but I think now you can show more English Premier League as well. You can do some other things as well, because I think you're going to do all you can with all the sports that's going on around the world and everything, and within the country and all that. So, but so NBC Sports Network has risen from the dead, but unlike Jesus, where it took 3 days for him to return, it took NBC Sports Network almost 4 years. And meanwhile, I'm ducking to make sure I don't get struck by lightning. But so that is the NBC Sports Network coming back. They use the name Sportsnet Central. You're thinking of the Philly channel. Sportsnet Central. I believe that's the Philly channel. Or that's the show in the morning. But this is the national show. But, the one thing is NBC Sportsnet Philadelphia, NBC Sports Philadelphia, whatever you want to call it, it's more like the infomercial channel, because you have two channels, NBC Sports Philly and NBC Sports Philly Plus. And 80% of the programming on the regular Sportsnet and 95% on the Plus channel are infomercials. I mean, I'm surprised we're not seeing Joe Theismann's prostate and super beta prostate and all that shit. I'm surprised we haven't seen that come up again. I mean, I can bring it up right now, but I won't. But it just seems like that there may be more to this, more than just the spin-off of Versant and everything else. There may be more. I wonder if maybe Peacock is failing. Or Miss Cleo. Yeah, I need to. Miss Cleo died a few years ago, if I remember correctly. But so anyways, let's get to our picks. Last weekend we went 3-2. We went 3-1 on the NFL and college. The soccer pick was shit. That was only because I was tailing AJ, but whatever. So we're going to pull up FanDuel here. And just to let you guys know, if always bet within your means. And if you have a gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. So, And just to let you know, we did have a spammer on the Bleacher Brothers page. So let's get to our picks here for the weekend. And we did go 3-2, 3-1 on American football. Right now, the Rams are down 20-14. Looks like the Yankees are going to advance. Are up 4-0 bottom of the eighth. So let's go to the football here. And always, just to let you guys know, you can hit that promo here on the top right hand screen there. Scan that. But also, keep in mind, if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Damn it. All right. So we're going to begin. Actually, we're going to begin with college. We're not going to begin with the pros. Okay. So let's begin. As we scroll down here. Air Force and Navy, that game is still happening despite the government shutdown. Just want to let you know about that. Same with Army. Okay. I am going to give you a pick here, which is reminiscent of Chris Berman. What? Today's Yom Kippur, or at least I think until sunset it was. And before you know, it'll be Hanukkah, where we'll have 8 crazy nights. But it is a Jewish holiday today, and we have to go with Temple here, don't we? So Temple takes on UTSA. Let's go with Temple in a 1 o'clock game. Temple plus 6.5, and what's going to be a crazy Saturday down in South Philly with Temple, Flyers preseason hockey, and then the Phillies on Saturday. So we're going with Temple here as one of the games here. Oops. Then we're going to go to, even though I detest Penn State with everything that happened because of Jerry Sandusky, I will admit that UCLA is a dog shit team. They fired their head coach already and all that other shit. And the Rams tied the game and they promptly missed the extra point. So it's 2020 right now. But Penn State, UCLA, Penn State may put up 60 on UCLA here. Usually I don't go for minus 115 here, but I will here for the sake of the fade here. Let's go Penn State minus 24.5 at minus 115. Those are the top 25 games. Let me see here. Anything else? All right. I think Alabama got themselves on track last week. And this is a revenge game from last year when Vanderbilt upset Alabama. I'm going to take Alabama here, minus 10.5. So that will be a play here. Yeah, let's go with those three today. So my college picks. Temple plus 6.5 at minus 110. Penn State minus 24.5 at minus 115. Alabama minus 10.5 at minus 110. And if you're daring enough to take my picks, why would you? If you're daring enough to go for the 3-team parlay here, it's 581. So let me do this so I can have a record of it. So that's my college picks. Then we're going to go to the pros here. Let me clear this. Let's go to the NFL. Okay. And one thing I will tell Mike here is I told him about maximizing your wagering dollar. Actually, for this, I'm actually going to zoom in. Whoop, not that. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. A little more. There we go. Okay. So the one thing I said was maximizing your wagers, your wagering dollar. Now, this game here, New York and New Orleans. Now, the chances of the New Orleans Saints winning by exactly 1 point is very small. So if you're going to pick the New Orleans Saints, if you're going to wager on the Saints, I should say, not pick, but wager on the Saints, I will tell you, if you're going to take the Saints, take the point spread, minus 110, minus 1.5 at minus 110, because let's prorate that money up to $100. And here's the thing: if you bet $10, nothing wrong with that. If you bet $5, nothing wrong with that. So basically, whatever you put in, it's going to prorate down to the dollar amount that you put into that. It's all figured out for you. So if you think the Saints are going to win, why waste $126 to win 100? Pretend you're going to bet $100 when you can bet 110 for New Orleans to win. Now, let's flip this around to the Giants side. The chances of the Giants winning by the Giants losing by 1 point and winning the game and losing the game but winning the point spread is very, very small. What I would recommend is, if you like the Giants in this game, okay, don't go here for plus 1.5. Maximize your win money, because not only will you just have to win the game, you'll get more money in return, because if you bet 100 here, you're getting $108 back. Whereas if you bet $100 here, let's just say 100, you're only getting $90.91 there. For a point spread where the chances of losing, the chances of the Giants losing the game but covering the spread are about as good as winning the Powerball on Saturday night. And here's the thing, I will gladly help you out. Now granted, I'm talking like an amateur probably. And when I was up at the Meadowlands last year, I was talking to one of AJ's friends who was there. And I was telling him, sometimes when we get to football season, I will say, why do this when you can do that? Well, here's the thing. Some people will only bet point spreads, and some people will only bet morning lines. Not morning lines, money lines. That's fine as well. But some people that kind of know a thing or two about a thing or two, don't do this. Because the chances of New Orleans winning 21-20, for example, are very small, winning by that 1-point margin. So I'm going to take a chance at the money line here because I think the Giants are going to win this. I think Jackson Dart will have a good start, but he will be in trouble against the Eagles on Sunday or on Thursday. So that's my first pick. Miami takes on Carolina. Be interesting to see what Miami does here. And we have another situation here, just like this other game, where the chances of Carolina losing by a point but winning this wager are slim and none. I think Miami is going to lose to Carolina here. I really do. And this is only Carolina's second home game, I believe. I'll take Carolina plus 100 here to win outright. And we'll go to the Eagles game here because we'll just keep it at 3 NFL picks. Eagles take on Denver. Denver has a short week. But Denver got lucky. They got to face a bad Cincinnati team with a backup quarterback and a team that probably quit on the field. So they're going to be fairly rested despite the short week. Eagles, everybody's saying, oh, Jalen Hurts, the offense, A.J. Brown, all this. I just think Eagles had a pretty good first half offensively. And they did literally nothing in the second half. But they still won the game. I think the Eagles could be in trouble in this game, but Denver is going to be a bit distracted here because they have a short week. They're coming to Philly, and right after this game, they're going over to London. So they're on a 2-week road trip here. Now, I love right now that the VIG is only 4% on the Eagles right now at 4.5. I think the Eagles win this. I think they barely cover this, but I think they cover it nonetheless. And I'm going to take the Eagles at minus 4.5 to win this game. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles did lose, but I thought the Eagles were going to lose last week too. And they almost did. But I think we're going to see the Eagles bounce back a little bit. They don't have to play in that extreme heat like they did. Well, extreme heat's a relative term because it's about heat and humidity. And by the way, the Yankees did advance tonight. They did win 4-0. So it'll be Yankees in Toronto, and we'll have Detroit and Seattle in the American League. So those are my 3 picks here. And let me just do this so I can save it. So those are my 6 picks for the Philly Phade for this weekend. And go over here. And we'll save that. Okay, so we're all set here. So just a reminder once again, Saturday, 10 a.m., also eligible. We're going to be looking at Belmont, the Big A, a.k.a. Aqueduct, as well as Keeneland. Keeneland opens up tomorrow, and Belmont, the Big A, is starting tomorrow. Belmont, the Big A, continues tomorrow. And with that win by the Yankees, Saturday first pitch is officially 6:38. Christopher Sanchez against Shohei Ohtani. So we'll see what happens on Saturday and everything else. But it'll all begin Saturday morning with also eligible. And I guarantee I'll be decked out in Phillies gear, getting ready for the big game on Saturday. So, all right. So that's going to be it for me on this Thursday night. Apologies for Tuesday. Occasionally I have one of those nights, and Tuesday night was one of those nights. So, but I'm perfectly fine. And the reason why I told you about it from the very beginning, at the beginning of the show, is because I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm probably sometimes too transparent on things. But if I can help one person that watches this even a couple of days later, then fine. We'll worry about that when the time comes. But do appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, Mike, for joining me tonight, and everybody watching on YouTube, on my Twitch, the Bleacher Brothers Twitch, and everybody else who will be watching even after the fact. Also on X. X doesn't show up on the stats anymore, but also an E to me, because error on me, because I'm sitting here, I'm posting everything up, and and the last thing you have to do when you write up all the text of what you're planning on talking about, you have to actually save the information. I didn't save it and schedule it, so it's like, oh shit. So, but I also have to get better at that, because I figure if I can get that up there earlier, then I can actually get everything ready to go on Saturday for the show. So, like, for example, tomorrow night I'll write up the introductory shit for also eligible. So that's it. Do appreciate each and every one of you. We'll do it live Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if you're not up early for also eligible, we'll do it Monday night at 9 o'clock. And oh, by the way, that's a Phillies game day as well. Oh shit. Mike, we do have a slight problem. And that is the Phillies on Monday night are not going to start until 9:08 p.m. So we'll discuss that over the next couple of days. So if you feel like you want to stay home that week, I know we're talking ahead of time, but I'm thinking about you getting home at about 12 o'clock. So having to deal with potential highway shit. So yeah, we'll have to discuss it on Saturday or tomorrow. I'm just looking ahead. That's all, because for whatever reason, and of course it's because it's the Dodgers and the Phillies, they decided to put that as a 9 o'clock game on Monday because it's the playoffs. But at least that's what ESPN has right now. Let me just confirm it on the Phillies page here. All right, so actually, Mike, we'll pin it down in the next day or two because ESPN has it as a 9 o'clock start. MLB.com and the Phillies website, actually, they have it as 6:08 for the starting time. So who the hell knows? But Saturday is because it's a primetime game, and you would figure the Phillies would be the early game because the other game's in the Central Time Zone. So a 9 o'clock time in Milwaukee is an 8 o'clock start. But a lot of times baseball doesn't do things the way that they're supposed to. So, but we'll pin that down over the weekend, Mike. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll figure it out because something tells me that the ESPN baseball schedule tab on their page is wrong. Yeah, so MLB.com does have it as 6:08 for the Eagles and Jesus Christ, for the Dodgers and Phillies. So it does look like it is going to be a 6 o'clock start. So we'll let the schedule finalize tomorrow, and we'll figure it out. So I think I think ESPN just fucked up. That's all. But then again, MLB did have that one of the ESPN yesterday had that one of the players that hit a home run for the Guardians. He hit a 2-foot home run in the first inning. It went about 432, but but anyway. So Mike, we'll talk between now and Saturday. Probably Saturday would be best. So that's going to be it for this show. Do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's do a live Saturday morning. Go Phils and beat LA and all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys in the winner's circle. Have a great night, everybody.
I'm going back to see the Phillies back in my hometown. Back to Philadelphia before the sun goes down. Wanna get back there to the ballpark lights. I gotta see the Phillies, what a beautiful sight. Gotta go cheer 'em on to help 'em score some runs. We want to make the Phillies #1, I want you to tell everybody that I'm leaving today. I'm going back to Philadelphia, PA. I'm going home to Philadelphia, back in old PA, to see the greatest team in the USA. Wanna laugh at the fanatic doing his thing. Wanna stand up for the anthem, hear the people sing. I love to shout, it's out of here, that's one they'll never catch. I even love to do the 7th inning stretch. I want to tell everybody that I'm on my way. I'm going back to see the Phillies today. I'm going back to Philadelphia, I've been living my dream. Back to catch the Phillies, they're my favorite team. You know, I've been to the East, I've been to the West, but Philly has the team that I love the best. I can live without the Yankees and the Dodgers, it's true. You can keep old Chicago and the Red Sox too. I'm going back to the place where the Phillies play. I'm going back to Philadelphia, PA.